Okay, can we start?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, turn off your mic, we will start. So, we have done with Lord Warren Hastings. So, in this session, we are going to discuss about the next Governor General, that is Lord Cornwallis. Okay, so when we discuss about Cornwallis, his time period is from 1786 to 1793. So if you go for a quick recap of what we have done, we have discussed about Lord Warren Hastings, and then we have discussed about why his period in history is known as trial and error period. Okay, and we have discussed the context for that. We have discussed about Regulating Act of 1773, and I have told you Governor of Bengal became Governor General of Bengal along with 4 council, and the decision has to be taken on the basis of majority. I have told you who was the first Governor General, that was Lord Warren Hastings. 4 members: Richard Barwell, Philip Francis, George Monson and John Clavering. Okay, and the issue with respect to majority also we have discussed, and we have also talked about the provision related to Supreme Court, and Supreme Court was established at Calcutta in 1774. Okay, and then we have discussed about Pitt's India Act of 1784. There, the reason why Governor General of Bengal plus 4 was reduced to 3 also I have told you, and now it is reduced to 3. The reason also you know, and how the problem with respect to the majority was solved here because of the casting vote also we have discussed. And then we have discussed about Board of Control. Okay, so which is comprising of 6 members who are sitting in England and regulating the affairs of East India Company in India. So Board of Control is sitting in England and regulating the affairs of East India Company in India, and these 3 members are sitting in India along with the Governor General and regulating. So you can see the regulation keeps on increasing. And now when we discussed about the structure of the company yesterday itself, I have told you the Board of Directors. They are the directors of the company, that is elected among the shareholders. So that is Board of Directors. This is Board of Control, which comprises of 6 members. Okay, so then apart from that we have also discussed a provision of recall, that the Parliament can recall any of the official including Governor General, even though Governor General is appointed by the company. So this is what we have discussed, and I have also briefly discussed about the revenue collection setup that was introduced by Lord Warren Hastings. So today we are going to discuss about Lord Cornwallis, and understand that he is the second person after Lord Warren Hastings, and you will come to Lord Cornwallis again when you discuss about American War of Independence. Okay, so when you discuss about American War of Independence, during the time of American War of Independence, so the Lord Cornwallis was the person who was leading the battle from English side against America. Okay, so the main opponent from American side, George Washington. So Cornwallis was the person who was leading the battle during this time between 1776 to 81. During this time, Cornwallis was the person who was leading the battle from English side, okay, against George Washington, okay, against America. So the interesting point that I want to tell you here is the person who was the biggest failure, and he failed there. The failure in America, when he came to India, he have a huge success story to write. And Lord Cornwallis is one of the most important Governor General from which you can get mains as well as prelims questions, and he is a very significant and important Governor General. Not only Lord Cornwallis, we will discuss about various Governor Generals like Lord Cornwallis. Warren Hastings is important because he was the first one. We will discuss about Lord Cornwallis, and then Lord Wellesley, Lord Dalhousie is going to be very important, Lord Minto 1, Minto 2, Lord Mountbatten, Lord William Bentinck, Lord Canning. All these Governor Generals are important. Similarly, Lord William Bentinck. So in that group, Lord Cornwallis will also come. So we will discuss all these Governor Generals in detail. So when you discuss about Lord Cornwallis, you have to mainly see the reforms introduced by Cornwallis. Okay, so there can be a general question which is related to the reforms introduced by Cornwallis. In that general question, if it is asked, You need to write about police reform, okay? You need to write about civil service reform. You need to write about judicial reform, and also you need to discuss about the revenue reform, that is Zamindari Settlement or the permanent settlement. So these are the 4 important points that we need to discuss, or the 4 important reforms that we need to discuss, out of which this can be alone a potential mains question. All these are independently important for prelims, but when it comes to mains, this can be a mains question. And judicial reform, or it is also known as Cornwallis Code, this is also a potential mains question. So here there is no enough content to ask you as a mains question. Maybe law and order related question can be asked. In that context, police reform may be one of the point in that only. For example, they can ask you question like the law and order situation in India improved drastically during British time. Then this is one of the point that police reforms was introduced by Lord Cornwallis, and that helped in improvement of law and order. It is not only negatives, right? There are a lot of positives of the British rule that we need to see. Later, William Bentinck also, like anti-Thuggee law, etc., are improving the law and order situation in India. So connected to that, you can get question. Otherwise, independently, if at all you get a mains question, it will be from these 2. Or in general, they can ask you the reforms introduced by Lord Cornwallis. So we will first start with the civil service reforms. There is nothing much to discuss. So Lord Cornwallis actually introduced civil services in the year 1793. So you can see all these reforms, civil service reform, police reform, judicial reform, or that permanent settlement, all are actually happening in 1793. And that is the year, that is his last year also. Okay, so he is leaving in 1793, although he is going to come back to India later, but that period we won't discuss because it is only for a few months and nothing much is actually happening. So here the last year, all these developments are actually happening in 1793. So civil services was introduced in 1793, but when he introduced civil services, it was not through any open competitive exam. So open competitive exam we will discuss after 1833 Charter Act. Okay, so 1833 Charter Act, there was a provision that was related to allowing Indians to write civil service exam. So there was a provision that no discrimination should be made in the recruitment of civil services on the basis of sex, color, creed, place of birth, etc. So technically speaking, only after 1833 Indians were allowed to write the exam, but still exam will be in their favor, okay, and it will be conducted in England. The syllabus is also like Shakespeare's philosophy, all those things will be there. It was very difficult, but still some Indians were always able to clear this exam. But technically, even though Indians were allowed from 1833, but Indians started coming from 1853 only. All those we will discuss in the coming sessions later. But here I just want to tell you that Lord Cornwallis actually introduced civil services in the year 1793. Okay, so again it was not through any open competitive exam. So in 2012 there was a question related to this: who is known as father of civil services? Who is known as father of civil services? It is Lord Cornwallis. Okay. Second point that we need to discuss here is related to the police reforms. So he introduced police reform, okay, especially in those areas where the British established the total control in India. That means mainly Bengal, okay, Bombay and Madras. So these are the 3 important presidencies where the British had good control over India. So here they introduced police reform. So if you see the police reform, till then the zamindars used to enjoy the power of policing, and that is the reason why yesterday, if you remember, when we discussed about that quinquennial settlement or 5-year settlement, I've told you zamindars were so desperate to get the zamindariship, and they quote unrealistic amount to get that. Why? Because they also enjoy the power of policing. Okay, so now police reform means 2 points only, very simple points. One is actually police officials were appointed. Okay, so first point is basically police officials were appointed, and secondly the police stations were established. So two important points that you need to remember here is police officials were appointed. So till then it was mainly zamindars. Now police officials were appointed and police stations were established. So here I can ask you, even though these 2 points only, I can give you a very difficult question here. Consider the following statement with respect to the police reform. Okay, and this is statement 1 and this is statement 2. So 1 only, I can ask you 2 only, 1 and 2, neither 1 nor 2. Okay, so and then what is the answer? Here you can see correctly that is 1 and 2 is the answer. Okay, police officials were appointed, police stations were established. But if I change the language slightly, like police officials were appointed, then police stations were established on the basis of population. Now you got stuck, right? So this knowledge may not help you to answer this question. So this point anyway is sure. So either 1 and this is your doubt, and mostly since you read that police stations were also established, there is a chance that you will go for this. Okay, so or you will think it is based on population or area. It will be more population means more police official, more police stations are required, right? So you think logically and it will be population, so you will go for 1 and 2. But actually at that point of time it was based on area. So police stations were established not on the basis of population, it was on the basis of area. So now onwards you should not make it wrong. So in this question, the answer for this question is actually 1 only, because it is not population, it is area. Currently if you see, it is based on population. More the population you can see in the cities where population is more, so police stations more required. So logically that is correct, but that time it was on the basis of area. For example, this area only, let's say 10 people are there, and similar area 1000 people are there, but here also 1 police station, here also 1 police station. So it was based on area. Okay. And the police stations will be headed by as you know, daroga. Okay, so daroga is nothing but the station house officer or the SHO or the sub inspector. Okay, so daroga will be the head of the police station. Number of police stations will form the circles. Number of police stations form the circle, and the circle will be headed by the superintendent of police. Okay, so daroga is the head of the police station. Circle will be headed by the superintendent of police. So this is about the police reform. Basically, police officials were appointed. Now law and order situation is getting improved in a better way. Police stations were established on the basis of area. So civil service reform and police reform. I hope this 2 point is very clear. Third one, when we discuss about, that is judicial reform. Okay, so it is also known as Cornwallis Code. So judicial reform or Cornwallis Code. So when we discuss about judicial reform, till then there were some issues with Indian law, okay, that we have already discussed before also. I have discussed the problem with civil cases, and I've also discussed about the problem with criminal cases. So when the Britishers came to India, they were not for the trial of their cases. I have discussed about Supreme Court was established for the trial of Europeans also. Okay, so the laws are totally different. They consider it as orthodox. There were a lot of issues. Forget about the civil case. Otherwise also there were issues. Okay, so here you will see, when it comes to judicial reform or the Cornwallis Code, there will be some changes in the structure and also changes in laws. Okay, and both positive and negative impact will be there. And these changes actually brought over a period of time. So I cannot conclusively say it was in 1793. Over a period of time, these changes were brought by the British. Okay, so if you see the structure, the hierarchy of court at that point of time, similar to this current time also, at that time also there was a hierarchy of court. Okay, so it's like this, the hierarchy was like this. At the lowest level, the Munsif ki Adalat. Munsif ki Adalat. Okay, so Munsif actually in Arabic means the one who gives justice. So that is actually the Arabic meaning of a munsif. So munsif ki adalat at the lower level, and above this the court of registrar. Okay, so for example, if you see in the current society also, now Indian structure also almost the similar pattern is followed. I'll show you that structure also. So above this court of registrar and above this district court. See, the clear-cut separation is not required here. Like Munsif ki Adalat will be taking the case up to 200 rupee related charges. Okay, so there are some distinction between these courts. Their jurisdiction is defined, but you don't want to go to the jurisdiction. What type of cases will be tried here? What cases here? That's not required for you. Just need to understand the structure just for your understanding purpose. Then district court. Above this you have Diwani court. Not above this, the district court is further divided into two: Diwani court and circuit court. Okay, Diwani court and circuit court. So Diwani courts are basically for the civil cases. So civil cases means what? The cases related to money, property, marriage, divorce, etc. And circuit courts are basically for the criminal cases. Okay, so district court further divided into two, and this is Diwani court, civil cases, circuit court for criminal cases. And actually Lord Cornwallis established 4 Diwani courts in 4 places in East India, that were in Dhaka, Patna, Calcutta and Murshidabad. So he established 4 Diwani courts: 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can expect a question: which among the following were the Diwani courts which were established by Lord Cornwallis? So if you see, instead of Patna, if I give you Bombay, you may go for 1, 2, 3 mostly. This is how people will go. Murshidabad you may not go for, and some people think logically and they will eliminate Bombay because it is in eastern part of India. Lord Cornwallis in eastern part of India, so it might not be there. So what I want to tell you basically is you should be knowing it exactly what are the 4. Okay, since these are important, and later also we will discuss about these 4 Diwani courts when we discuss about 1833 Charter Act. When we discuss about 1833 Charter Act, in that there will be a provision that the 4 Diwani courts which were established by Lord Cornwallis at Dhaka, Patna, Calcutta, Murshidabad were to be abolished and instead High Court to be set up. And where the High Court set up and all those things we'll discuss when it comes to the time. So this is very important, so you just need to have a very good idea about these 4 Diwani courts, where it was located. Okay, just 1 minute. Now when it comes to the circuit courts, these are not fixed courts, these were actually moving courts, and they will move across Bengal, Bihar, Orissa, that region. Above this, the highest court of appeal. Above this, above Diwani court, Sadar Diwani. Sadar Diwani. Okay, so Sadar Diwani, Sadar is actually again a Persian word. Its meaning is head, so it's similar to the High Court. Okay, so here it is Sadar Nizamat. So Sadar Diwani and Sadar Nizamat. Sadar means it is high. So it is the High Court for this, and here it is the Sadar Nizamat is the High Court for this. And from this, again, if you have appeal, it will go to the Governor General, and from there it can go to the Parliament. This is actually the structure. Okay. So Munsif ki Adalat, and then Court of Registrar, District Court. Above the District Court further divided into for civil cases and criminal cases. Civil cases, the head is Diwani, Sadar Diwani, and then Sadar Nizamat. So these 4 courts which are established by Cornwallis also you should be knowing. Now, apart from this, one of the most important most important point that we need to discuss during Lord Cornwallis, or in fact one of the most important positives of British rule in India. So we have to understand the British rule in India not only in negative terms. There are a lot of positives. For example, railway is such a positive thing, such a big infrastructure which they have left behind. Okay, after spending too much for railways. And similarly, police reform, judicial reform also, there are a lot of positive. Even now our constitution is actually based on this. Okay, the ideal of our constitution, the most important pillar of our constitution, that is rule of law and equality before law. Rule of law and equality before law. So these are the most important pillars of our constitution. See, till then when we discuss about, there was no such concept of equality before law. Okay, for example, in front of a judge, if in case of eyewitness, if you talk about eyewitness, two people are coming, one from higher caste and one from lower caste. The judge will listen to the higher caste. Okay, or one rich and poor is coming. Judge will listen to the rich because in his opinion, rich is rich because he is a truthful person, like that. Okay, similarly, male and a female is coming. The judge will listen to the male because there was a idea that male have more memory power than the female. So male will be listened or heard in case of eyewitness, and one male is actually considered equal to two female. So if you need to overcome one male eyewitness statement, how many female is required? You need three female because two will be equal. If you need to overcome, you need three female. So one eyewitness statement given by a male, if you need to counter, you need three female eyewitness. So this is going to be no more now. They introduced equality before law. That means male or female, rich or poor, upper caste or lower caste, or even a kid, even a child can also come and give eyewitness statement. So everybody is considered equal before the law. So they introduced equality before law. But understand again one thing, that even though we talk about equality before law, this equality is among or between the Indians only. When it comes to an Indian and an English, then this is not there. Okay, so at least in paper now we can say they have introduced equality before law. At least among Indians now there is a equality before the law. Rule of law means what? Rule of law means law is supreme. The law of the land is supreme. The Governor General also have to work within the law. Nobody is above the law. You have to follow the law. Everybody have to work within the law. That is what you mean by rule of the law. Rule of law. So these are the two important pillars of our constitution, and it was actually introduced by Britishers. So what I'm saying is a lot of positives are there during British rule. It is not only that they looted, they plundered and they drained all the resources, but apart from that they left out a lot of good things, like in terms of law and order, judicial reforms, and also infrastructure, etc. We will be understanding everything in the coming session, and you will be in a position to appreciate many things also. Okay, so that's about the three important reforms, that is civil service reform, and then police reform, also the judicial reform. Now we need to discuss about the other one, which is in the revenue side. What is that? The permanent settlement. Very important one, because we have discussed about the settlements which was introduced by Lord Warren Hastings, and we understood why it was a failure. Warren Hastings introduced a settlement for 5 years, but it was based on bidding process or auction process, and the main problem was the state was not fixing the revenue. It was left out to the Zamindar, and Zamindar will quote the unrealistic amount during the time of bidding, and they will not be able to realize it. And it was for 5 years, so the state can't do anything, and state were not able to implement any of the policies, or the budget and everything was a big problem, because state have no idea how much the state is going to get. Okay, neither the state nor the peasant benefited, only the Zamindar got benefited. So there is a change in the system which is required. So that is what actually going to happen in the permanent settlement. Okay, now as you see here, the word itself will tell you it is permanent settlement. That means permanently it is settled. So it was settled on the basis of 1790. Whatever you are paying as revenue, or what is calculated as revenue in 1790, exactly the same will be fixed, and you will be paying that revenue from here onwards. In 1793, 94, 95, 96, 97, you will pay exactly the same. So from the state side, the advantages, there is a predictability. So it is actually fixed by the state, and there is a predictability what the state is going to get. So this is what the peasant need to pay. From the peasant side, what is the advantage? Peasant need to pay the revenue which is calculated on the base of 1790, and every year you can see production will increase, right? Production will improve every year. So despite the fact that the production increase, but peasant need to pay the same, and peasant is also happy. So the state is happy because predictability is there. Peasant is happy because production will increase, but still revenue remain the same. But again, there will be problem with this. Who will dominate? Zamindar will dominate. We will see how it is actually going to work out. So in permanent settlement, again, the system is same, except that the state fixed on the base of 1790. Who is responsible to collect revenue? Zamindar. From whom? Peasant. Zamindar will give it to state. So again, the structure remain the same. The intermediary is the Zamindar. Now between peasant and the Zamindar, if you see, the ownership of land is actually given to Zamindar. So who is the owner of the land? Ownership is given to the Zamindar. But this ownership is not absolute. Between Zamindar and peasant, Zamindar is the owner. That means if the peasant failed to pay the revenue in time, he may be evicted by the Zamindar and will be given to another peasant one. Okay, but exactly in the same way, if you see between Zamindar and the state is the owner. That means if the Zamindar is not able to pay the tax in time, the Zamindar could also be evicted by the state, and another Zamindar will come in his place. And for this purpose, they have introduced a law in 1794, that is sunset law. Sunset law means before the sunset of the specified time period, maybe 2 weeks or 1 month or whatever it is, on the deadline before the sunset, if you are not paying the revenue, he will be evicted and new Zamindar will come. Okay, so that's about the ownership. Now who introduced this? We are discussing under Lord Cornwallis. So obviously it was introduced by Lord Cornwallis and his deputy John Shore. Even though this person is going to be the next Governor General, he's not that famous. He's famous only for permanent settlement. We won't discuss anything under John Shore, even though he was a Governor General for next 5 years. Okay, but he is known for this because he was the deputy at that point of time, and this is something which is very significant. So we have discussed related to the ownership and sunset law and who introduced. Now where it is introduced? It was introduced in Bengal, okay, Bihar, Orissa, that region, and also parts of Tamil Nadu and some parts of Benares. And it comprised around 19% of British India. Okay, not entire India, 19% of British India. For example, this is India. This is the area that the British have control. Out of this, 19% will be permanent settlement. This is also known as Zamindari Settlement. Permanent settlement is also known as Zamindari Settlement. Okay, so we have discussed about who introduced, where it is introduced, what percentage, sunset law, ownership. Now, okay, so before I have told you Zamindars used to get a lot of power, but now police reform is there, police officials was there. Now why the Zamindars are working? Zamindars will get a commission. Zamindars will get 9% of the collected amount. So Zamindars will get 9%, so the state will get 91% of the collected amount. What to be collected? That is actually fixed on the basis of 1790. Out of which 9%, that means 1 out of 11 for Zamindar and 10 out of 11 for the state, which is also fixed. So this is actually the setup all about. Now here we need to see the consequences. So from mains point of view, consequences is more important. From prelims point of view, what all things you have discussed here, like who introduced, Lord Cornwallis and John Shore, where introduced, Bengal, Bihar, Orissa, parts of Tamil Nadu and Benares, mainly in eastern part of India. What percentage? 19%. Related to ownership, what is the structure? There is a structure. Okay, sunset law and related to commission. So this is what important for prelims. Now consequences, when you discuss, even though the tax is fixed on the basis of 1790, but still it is considered as very high. So the first point is actually it is very high and you need to pay it even during any natural calamity also. So the tax is coming around 60% of the output, close to. And 60% of the output means which also includes some inputs. So it is coming around 80% to 90% of the output. Okay, so the first point that we can write is high rate of taxation. Taxation here is very high. Okay, and second point that we need to discuss is related to the ownership. I have told you Zamindar versus peasant. Zamindar is the owner. So if the peasant is not able to pay the tax, what will happen? He will be evicted. So when he is evicted, what will happen? He will become a rural landless labor. Okay, and no peasant want to get evicted. So what he will do? He will try to pay tax. So how can you pay tax when you don't have produce now? You will approach money lenders. So this lead to emergence of money lenders or Marwadis or Mahajans in the eastern part of India. So far I have discussed about these consequences, high rate of taxation, and that lead to rural landless labor or emergence of money lenders who charge very high interest rate from the peasant and exploit the peasant. Okay, rural landless labor means so many rural landless laborers. So let's suppose here 5 people were working. Now more and more people are working here, like 10 people are working. So the marginal product of this 10 is actually 0. Whatever this 5 is producing, exactly the same will be produced from that land, even though 10 more people are added. So this situation is what you call as disguised unemployment, or you can say simply unemployment. More people are searching for job, unemployment. Now you can write anything, you can write about poverty, deprivation, inequality, all these are connected to this now. Apart from this, 2 most important points that you need to write under Zamindari settlement or the permanent settlement is with respect to this. You see, Zamindar versus state, who is the owner? State is the owner. So if Zamindar is not able to pay, under sunset law he will be evicted and new person will come. Why this person is coming? He is looking for the 9% commission and he is coming. He may be a trader, he may be a merchant man, or he may be a businessman, etc. But initially this person was the original from the rural area, the original landlord, but this person may not be from the original land, okay, rural area. He may be an urban person or urban merchant or an urban trader. So here what will actually happen? Here what will happen is this will essentially lead to the situation of absentee landlordism. Okay, so this will lead to absentee landlordism. That means you are actually not present over there and you are, that situation is what you call as absentee landlordism. Now here again, if you see the impact, what will happen? This Zamindar one who was appointed by the state, he is a merchant, right? He is a trader or a businessman. He may be busy. So what he will do, he will appoint another person, Zamindar 2. So 9% if he is getting, he will promise that I will give you 4%, you collect the revenue. Similarly, this person also may appoint another person and will tell that 2% I will give you, you collect. Similarly, this person also appoint, so by giving 1%. Like that, this situation is what you can call or understand as chain of intermediaries. So these 2 are very peculiar to the permanent settlement, these 2, absentee landlordism and chain of intermediaries. Very important, it has to be there in your answer if the question is asked about permanent settlement. Okay, now see here, it lead to exploitation. You can think logically that revenue is fixed on the basis of 1790. That means if you are asked to collect 100 rupee, you have to collect 100 rupee only, out of which you get 9 and state will get 91. But the production keeps on increasing. So what will happen is the Zamindar keep on demanding more, pressurize the peasant more and charge more from the peasant. For example, if the Zamindar collecting 200 from the peasant, but legally you are entitled to collect 100. So even if you collect 200, the state collect only 91 from you. You will pay only 91 to the state, 91%. Not 91% of this, if it is 100, 91. Okay, and you are allowed to collect only 100. So when you are collecting 200, you cannot give 91% of 200 to state. You will give only 91 rupee. And balance 109 is with whom? Is with the Zamindar. So you can see here Zamindars are getting more richer. Zamindars are gaining more and more than the state or from the peasant or than from the peasant. So this led to over exploitation of the peasants, and that created a lot of other issues. So I hope these points are very clear to you. So these are the points that you need to write under consequences. High rate of taxation. So that lead to rural landless labor if the peasants are not able to pay the tax. That lead to unemployment, poverty, inequality, deprivation, everything you can write. Emergence of rural, money lenders, and also these two are specific features like absentee landlordism and chain of intermediaries. So when we discussed about permanent settlement, what I will do is I will also cover this Ryotwari settlement and Mahalwari settlement here itself, so that it will be very easy for you to cover. Okay, so Ryotwari settlement. So it was actually introduced in Madras and Bombay. Okay, so now when you discuss about Madras comprise of major parts of Tamil Nadu and some parts of South India. It's such a huge territory. Bombay means Maharashtra, Gujarat, and even Sindh area. Okay, and also central provinces with the capital Nagpur. So all these areas, it's such a huge area. So it comes around 51% of British India. The other one was 19% of British India. Okay, so here it is 51% of British India, like Madras, Bombay, central provinces with capital Nagpur, in all these areas. So it was actually introduced in different phases. So you don't want to know the year. Actually started in 1805, then in 1817, 1818 in Bombay region, etc. Okay, and introduced by Thomas Munro and Reed. 2017, the prelims question was this: who introduced Ryotwari settlement? Very simple question. Okay, 2017 prelims. Thomas Munro and Reed. Where? Madras, Bombay, mainly in southern and central region. The previous one was in eastern region. Okay, so 51%. Okay, so here the system is like this: no zamindar, no intermediary. So peasant, then state. Peasant will come into contact with the state directly through an official. So peasant will pay to the official will pay to the state. Ownership is actually given to the peasant. So peasant is actually considered as the owner of the land. So peasant is actually incentivized. As long as you pay the tax, you will be the owner of the land. So you pay the tax here. So do you think here absentee landlordism will come? No, the peasant is the owner. So there is no question of absentee landlordism. That's why I've told you absentee landlordism is a specific peculiar feature of permanent settlement only. Secondly, chain of intermediaries. Will that come here? No, because his role is basically to collect tax. His job is that only. So there is no question of he appointing another person to collect the tax, right? So that is also not going to be possible. So that chain of intermediaries and absentee landlordism was specific to what? Specific to permanent settlement. Okay, so here peasant is given the ownership of the land, and peasant is considered as the owner of the land so long he pay the tax to the government. Introduced by Thomas Munro and Reed. Introduced in different phase, so year is not important for you. Where? Madras, Bombay and central provinces. South and center. The previous was east, here south and center. And previous 19%, this is 51%. So 70 is over, 30 is left out. So the next one will be this 30%. And which area left out? Northern part. So the next will be in northern part. We'll discuss that soon. Okay. Now here if you see the consequences. So high rate of taxation. Here also taxation is high. Even though tax is not fixed permanently, here the tax can be changed after, let's say, 20 years. It will change. It is not permanently fixed. That is the main difference. Still it is high rate. Secondly, as the ownership is given to the peasant, you can see here peasant can pledge the land to the money lender and he can borrow. So again emergence of money lenders, and this money lenders will become the owner of the land. They capture the land. Okay, and there was a in the Deccan region, which comprised of basically AP, Maharashtra, Karnataka, large territory, number of Mahajans or the Marwadis and other trading communities, they came, they started lending money at a very high interest, and they started purchasing land, they started grabbing their land. So you can see a new socio-political situation emerged in Deccan region. That is, originally the land belonged to whom? The peasants, the Deccans. Now it is in the hands of the outsiders. So there was a huge unrest during the time of 1875 to 79, which is popularly known as Deccan Rights. See, many reasons are there for Deccan Rights, but mainly one of the most important reasons is actually related to the transfer of land to the outsiders. That is one of the impact of this. So Deccan Rights I am not discussing here, that's not required for us, but I am just saying that point. Moneylenders who came from outside like Mahajans, Marwadis, etc., they started grabbing their land. Okay, so and here the settlement was for 20 years. So high rate of taxation is there, and then those problems that we have discussed, rural indebtedness. Okay, when you charge high interest rate, rural indebtedness, then you will lose the land. Once you lose the land, you become landless, labor. Then you can write all this poverty, inequality, deprivation, disguised unemployment, everything. Here also same only, except that two that we have discussed. What are the two? Chain of intermediaries and absentee landlordism. Except that everything will come here. Okay, transfer of land to moneylenders or mahajans was so common here. Okay, and that's what the problem I've told you with respect to Deccan Rights. There is a very famous saying about the rural peasants in India. Once a peasant was born, he was born in debt and he will die in debt. Okay, so that was actually the situation. Now, along with this, we can quickly cover the third one also, Mahalwari System. So this was actually introduced by Holt, Mackenzie. Okay, so it was introduced in which region? It was introduced in the northern part. Okay, so in the Punjab and Western UP. So UP means United Province. Okay, so it was introduced by Holt Mackenzie in the year 1813. So here the land revenue is actually collected by Mahals. That's why Mahalwari system. Mahal is a Punjabi word, means village. Okay, so it is actually the entire village was responsible for paying land revenue to the state, and this was the responsibility of the local leader called Lambardar, or in some other places he was called Nambardar also. So the system was like this: the peasant will pay to the Panchayat or the Mahal and will pay it to the state. The entire village is responsible, and the person, the local leader who is responsible to collect tax and give is known as Nambardar in different regions. Again, the same problems will be there: high rate of taxation, transfer of land to Mahajans, Marwadis, emergence of moneylenders. Okay, then rural indebtedness because of that selling of land. Okay, and then rural landless laborers, unemployment, underemployment, disguised unemployment, inequality, poverty, deprivation, whatever you feel like you can write. So these are the impacts of land revenue. So these are the different land tenure system: permanent settlement, Mahalwari settlement, Mahalwari settlement. Permanent settlement, eastern part of India; Mahalwari settlement, south and central part of India; Mahalwari settlement, northern part of India. Now one more point here is, some students will have a doubt that permanent settlement then Mahalwari settlement, so at that point of time this was abolished. No, it continued in eastern part, Mahalwari in south and central part, Mahalwari in northern, all are going parallel. Okay, and then this was 19%, this was 51%, so there is a majority, and this is rest, that is 30%. Here Lord Cornwallis and John Shore, and here it was Thomas Munro and Reed, and here it was Holt Mackenzie. Okay, consequences and everything will remain the same, except in this there are two more, that is absentee landlordism and also chain of intermediaries. That is very specific to permanent settlement. So that's about Lord Cornwallis. In fact, in Cornwallis, basically I wanted to discuss about what all things. Permanent settlement, that is one thing. Apart from that, police reform, judicial reform, and civil service reform. So since we discussed about permanent settlement, rather than discussing the other settlements under the different governor generals later, it will be very easy for us to understand and for me also to cover it. So that's why I have covered both of the other settlements. So I hope this is clear for all of you. Now when you read this detail, this kind of analysis, you won't see in spectrum, but for your exam point of view, I will tell you that spectrum is enough for you. Okay, so any doubt? I have 5 minutes. You can talk.
Hello, sir.
Tell me.
Sir, Mahalwari system when come into force?
1830.
Sir,
Tell me, Saudi.
as you said before, Zamindari system is a hereditary one. If we elected the Zamindar also, it doesn't mean a change, sir, because it's hereditary coming to that position and he can exploit in the same way as before person did. In that way, we can say that the eviction of Zamindars is also a relief to the peasants in somewhat.
Yes.
How, sir, his hereditary position coming and doing in the
But they are not getting, they don't have any power, no. When eviction of Zamindar is there means they don't have any power. Now, that right will be over once the Zamindar is not able to pay the tax, then that right will be over, so they don't have any power to collect tax now.
Okay.
The Supreme Court is mainly for the trial of Europeans. So all their cases will be tried in the Supreme Court. Everybody. So even the Governor General also have to follow the rule, and Governor General also have to work within the law. And the laws, any court, who will create the law, who will frame the law? It is a parliament. Okay. So based on that only the courts and everything will work.
Sir, in LordCornwallis Settlement and Mahalwari Settlement, the rates were not fixed.
No, it is not fixed. It will be fixed, but it is not like permanent settlement. It will be fixed based on the quality of the soil, fertility and area, etc. But it will be changing. But in permanent settlement, it was fixed permanently. Here in LordCornwallis, I have told you it will change after, let's say, 20 years.
After 20 years,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay, so can we stop here?